Hey, it's Jeff Zito, and thank you for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast, streaming on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Please hit that subscribe button. Would love a 5-star rating. If you love the podcast, thank you so much. 5-star rating would be great. Please leave a review or a comment. Occasionally, I'll read some comments here on the podcast, even the bad ones. So we're closing in on almost 200 episodes, and man, we've had some great guests. So if you want to take a look at the catalog, you can just go to celebrityjobber.com and pick and choose which one of the 200 episodes you want to check out. We pretty much focus on the before story. You know, before they were famous, who were they? What did they do? How did they get there? Like the big break? Was there a big break? You know, a lot of times there was this gradual grind and rise to fame. You know, there was no overnight success, but sometimes there was. And with Wynonna Judd, a.k.a. Wynonna, one of the few artists that just go by a singular name, Prince, Madonna, Elvis. It's kind of a big deal, I think. She'll tell me about growing up. Her mother, Naomi Judd, the driving force, who tragically just passed away a few years ago. You know, so how did this all happen? I gotta tell you, it's a pretty wild story, and one that I was not very familiar with. Currently on the road with the legendary Melissa Etheridge and the Raised on Radio tour. You can go to Wynonna.com and find out if the tour is coming to a city near you. Plus, she's releasing her first new album in almost 10 years. Country music royalty, Wynonna Judd, or just simply Wynonna, is my guest this week on Celebrity Jobber.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, give a 5-star rating, and leave a review. Check out all our past episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you pod. What if these celebrities weren't famous? What would they have become? What was their first job? We're about to find out.
Hello, baby.
Oh, my goodness. Well, you know, you know how to make a guy intimidated right out of the chute.
That's my job.
I got to tell you, Wynonna, you got one hell of a story here. First of all, happy belated birthday and happy anniversary. You're married to a man named Cactus. I think that's really cool.
He's something.
He's something. Tell me a little bit about him. What happens with...
Well, he's a cowboy.
Okay.
He's John Wayne. He's a cowboy. He walks around here with a gun on his hip and a knife in his pocket and his cowboy boots with spurs and a cowboy hat, and he just walks around this farm like he owns it, and he's just not scared of anybody. And
really?
It's unbelievable because I don't have that kind of confidence, and so he gives me my strength sometimes when I'm feeling really low. And he's my king and my partner, and I trust him. He's the first man that I've ever experienced a relationship with where we don't fight. If I try, he just won't have it. And I just have met my match.
You just said something crazy, though, that about confidence. You realize you're one of maybe 5 artists that go by a singular name. I mean, you should have all the confidence in the world. You got Elvis, Madonna, Cher, Bono, and Wynonna. So you should have.
You know what? I have a funny story about that.
Tell me.
When the Judds broke up, when we had our final tour, and we were still in record stores. You remember record stores?
I do.
Yeah, so do I. So the Judds are in the bin, and the marketing and MCA Records, they said, we want Wynonna to be separate from the Judds, so they put me in the W's.
Oh, wow. There it is.
I know.
That was the beginning.
I earned it because of marketing.
But that's okay. You earned it because of marketing.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I had to work hard. I had to work hard to work into it.
Well, I got to tell you, Wynonna, crazy story. By the way, new album, first one in 10 years, The Hard Truth, comes out on October 2nd. You can pre-order now at Wynonna.com. one of the singles on the album is called Kentucky Queen, and I can't help to think that one's about your late mom, Naomi. Tell me a little bit about the song Kentucky Queen and what your mom did as a young mother to, support you.
Well, she went to pick up the welfare check every week, and
Wow.
she bought the food that we could afford, and we went hungry, and I was dirty, and every picture of me is my hair cut myself. I cut my own hair, and wearing overalls and hiking boots to school. And I just remember being really, really, really poor and growing up with that kind of lifestyle. And then all of a sudden I'm standing at the Kentucky Derby in my outfit that's, made for the Derby, and I'm singing the national anthem, for
Wow.
God's sake.
Wow.
And I'm like, how did this happen? I don't really know, but I'm grateful. And I'm just standing there, and I can't believe it. I just can't believe that I went from dirt to rhinestones, and it worked.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito.
So your mom was studying to be a nurse, and you grew up in Kentucky, and you moved around a little bit because of college. So, and your mom was finishing school, like nursing school. So you moved around quite a bit. And I understand that you guys found out that there was harmony between the two of you when you were, a teenager, and maybe things were, when you're a teenager, your parents aren't your best friends, but I heard that you guys maybe found a way to communicate on the front porch in harmony. Can you tell me if that's true, and tell me a little bit about how you guys discovered your love of singing together?
Well, I've never talked about this in an interview, so this is the first. This is an exclusive. The only harmony that my mom and I had was through vocals.
So you're telling me that you guys didn't really get along?
Yes.
Okay.
So we would tap into that at the end of the day. We would have supper. Soup, beans, and cornbread were practically every meal. And we would sit out on the porch and we would sing together because we listened to WSM Opry on Saturday night on our radio because we had no TV, no telephone. And we would listen to the Opry, and Mom would come up with a song. I think A Mother's Smile was the first one we ever learned. And I would sing it and play it because I practiced all the time. There was nothing else to do, so I had a guitar. And I tell kids every day, get small. Get off the internet, get with your guitar or your instrument, and practice. So I would practice and practice and practice and sing and sing and sing, and she would come out and add her harmony to my voice, and that's when we had peace. And
that's when you had peace
through the music.
Wow.
That's when we had peace.
Wow. So the big break story to me is kind of crazy. So you and Mom discovered your love for music at an early age, but it was Mom working as a nurse, and one of her patients, her father or somebody, was a record exec. How did this all happen?
She had a patient that was in a really bad car wreck, so she was in the hospital for a while, and the father that would come visit is one of the great producers here in Nashville. And at the end of the visit, one day towards the end, she gave him a cassette tape that we made at home. And she said, here, I want you to hear this. So she gave the cassette to the father, and the father took it, and he said he kept it in his trunk forever. And he took it out one day, and he heard it, and he went, oh, my God. And he got in touch with us and came over to the house and brought a guitar player named Don Potter, who became our instrumentation. And the two of them literally guided us through 3 or 4 songs, and we recorded them. And then we went and had a live audition at RCA Records, and we made it that day. We went in and sang for the executives, sat down, gave them the harmony, and they said, we want this act.
Wow.
And that's how it started. It's crazy. It's a crazy story. Like no 8x10, no production, no nothing. Just 2 girls from Kentucky walking into an executive's office and sitting down and giving what we learned on the front porch.
You know what I love about the story, Wynonna, is that from the very beginning of our conversation, you recognize the fact that this is nuts. Like, you grew up poor in Kentucky, welfare checks, you grew up dirty, and here you are singing the national anthem in the Kentucky Derby. It seems like there's not a day that goes by that you don't realize where it was that you came from. And you realize, because people, when they hear you and the Judds, they think, they don't know how you got there. They don't know anything about before. And there is a lot of before in your story, which yes. I think is remarkable. So whose idea was it to become, to have a music career? Did it start out by being your idea? You wanted a music career, you're playing guitar, mom's harmonizing with you on the front porch. Where did it become the two of you?
My mother. I wanted to be in a rock band or a country band. I wanted to play my guitar and be the solo vocalist and do my own thing. And she said, "Sweetheart, you and I together are unique." And she would have me learn these songs, and she would sing harmony, and every time someone heard them, they would just look at us like, what in the world? And I think she knew. I think Mom knew, because I was too young. I was 10 years old. I didn't have a clue, right? So I don't know what's going on, other than the songs I'm learning. And she was the hustler. She was the one that said, okay, we're going to go sing at this church. We're going to go sing at this commerce event. And she would mark it down in the calendar, and we would go sing, and people would just freak out. And it started to build. And then she got jackets made. She had just enough money to go and make us these hillbilly women, she called us. And nobody knows that story, but she went and had these jackets made, and we would wear them to go to shows. We went to Merle Haggard and different shows, and she always got a backstage pass because she's so beautiful that she could go anywhere and get anything. And we would go backstage, and we would meet George Jones or Merle Haggard and become friends with people. And she was just always, trying to make it happen. And I'm standing there with my guitar like, what in the world's going on? I have no idea.
Wow.
That's why it worked. That's
right.
Why it worked. It was so innocent and so naive and so vulnerable and just family. And the fact that it was mother-daughter, there was no other act like that out there in the business.
No, there wasn't. So tell me, so Wynonna, I'm thinking to myself, Mom's job, she was a nurse most of her career until the Judds signed to RCA and you guys became a household name. What about you? You're wanting to be a singer, you're aspiring to be a singer, and I think you're probably right around 20, maybe 19 when you signed the record deal. Any job that you held, a regular job, like as a teenager? What was your first job? Was it outside of show business?
It was working at a horse ranch. And it was working at a horse ranch, so I mucked stalls. So talk about moving the shit. I became
Wow.
But look at me now, kind of thing. I'm literally doing wardrobe experiences so I can go out on this Melissa tour, so I can sort of figure out a way to make it happen. I went from mucking stalls to being out on stage. I still go barefoot, though. I still go barefoot because that's part of who I am. I just feel the ground, and I feel earthy, and I feel like I'm making it still today because of those experiences of being so poor and so dirty and just so tired of living that lifestyle. And now that I have what I need, I'm just so grateful. And I still know how to rock because God gave me a really strong voice, and I know how to use it.
The Celebrity Jobber Podcast with Jeff Zito. Celebrity Jobber.
Wynonna, you literally went from shoveling shit to becoming a star with one name. And
take that, American Idol.
Yeah. And again, everybody's got a story and nobody knows the before, not a lot of people know the before, and they don't realize how like this is rags to riches type of story. By the way, raised on radio tour with the great Melissa Etheridge, coming to a town near you, Wynonna.com. you said you wanted to be a rock star. You said you wanted to be either country singer or rock star. So this
what people don't know is that I went to rock shows before I made it. Like I met Bono when I was 17 years old.
Really?
So I knew a lot of these artists. Yeah, I knew a lot of these artists before I became Wynonna and Naomi the Judds. So as a matter of fact, I remember Bono was one of the first people to get the CD and his band, and they played it everywhere because they loved the Judds. They loved the story. They loved the whole thing. But I knew all these rock bands. I would go hang out with Rat and Poison and all these rock acts. And Metallica and I are very close till today because I go to their shows, and people don't know that about me.
Yeah, I had no idea. I just saw a picture of you on X with the Red Rocker, Sammy Hagar. And I'm like, wow, Wynonna, she's a rocker at heart. You think you'll ever do a rock album?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you will?
Absolutely. When I'm 70, can you imagine when I'm 70 and I don't give a crap? Can you imagine?
Dolly Parton did it. She just did it, right? She did it with Motley Crue.
That's right.
She did a freaking duet with the Crew.
Right.
Who would you do a duet with? Wynonna, who would you do it with?
Metallica.
Wow.
Metallica. And I wish Journey was still a band. I still, to this day, Steve Perry has one of the greatest voices I've ever heard in my life.
Man, I got to tell you, I'm gonna write this down and make sure you own up to coming out with this rock album and doing a song with Metallica. Now that would be something else. Raised on Radio, it's the Raised on Radio tour with the legendary Melissa Etheridge. This is a great tour. Again, Wynonna.com. You can also pre-order her album, which is the first new album for Wynonna in 10 years. It's called The Hard Truth. It comes out on October the 2nd, and it's a true rags to riches story. And, and again, I don't know if people, and the story's out there. It's not like we're breaking any news here, but the story's out there. But I don't think the story is out there to the point of where you told it today, Wynonna, about growing up poor, cornbread, welfare, dirty. I've never heard that before. So I want people to just kind of take that all in. And it seems so cliche when you're like, you can do whatever, dreams can come true, but you're living proof,
Yes. We had clothes that we would wear over and over. I never remember having new shoes. I don't remember, the typical go to high school and get the new backpack. I never remember having any of that. Everything was homemade lunches. I never remember going to restaurants. I never remember going out to eat or to a movie. I think I went to my first movie when I was almost 18 years old. And we didn't have the life that people assume that we had. And it's part of who I am. And I still to this day live on a farm with 40 animals, and I do chores and I cook. That's what I do in my spare time, is cook. I'm known for cooking for 50 people. And I'm known for being Noni, N-O-N-I-E.
Noni.
That's who I am. I'm the Italian grandmother, and I take care of everybody. I cook and I clean, and I do my own laundry sometimes, and I know how to pack a suitcase better than anybody, and I know how to go out and rock. And it's a very strange life, but it's my life, and it's who I am.
And you got a husband named Cactus. I love it.
And then there's that.
That's great. Wynonna, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. Wynonna.com to pre-order the album and tour dates near you. The Raised on Radio tour with Melissa Etheridge. Thank you, Wynonna. Have a great day. Thank you so much.
This has been one of my favorite interviews. Thank you, my dear.
You say that to all of them.
No, I don't.
I believe you. Thank you so much. Take care. Yeah, the story is pretty incredible because I didn't know much about Wynonna before fame. I didn't know that her first job was at a horse ranch, shoveling shit, mucking stalls. That's what she did outside of show business, her first job. Grew up very poor in Kentucky. Her mother, Naomi Judd, was studying to be a nurse. And Wynonna emphasizes like poor. I grew up poor, dirty, painting the picture of just how poor they were. She talked about her mother picking up the welfare check every week. And as she describes her early upbringing to fast forward singing the national anthem at the Kentucky Derby, I could see that Wynonna is very grateful for the life that she has. And I can see that she thinks about it. And, she pointed out several times during the interview that this is a crazy story. They left Kentucky and went to California for Naomi to finish her nursing degree. And that big break, that story of one of Naomi's patients, she was in a car wreck and found out that her father was some big-time Nashville music executive. So slipped the patient a tape of her and her daughter, Wynonna, and that tape ended up making it to Nashville, which led to an audition. And, Wynonna mentioned during the interview and she says she never talked about this before, but she led me to believe that her and her mother did not get along. I mean, she flat out said it. She said the only harmony between us was when they were singing songs together on their front porch. The songs were what kept the peace between Naomi and Wynonna. And look, you could see that Naomi was very young when she had Wynonna. So they're very close in age. Honestly, when they first came up in the 80s, I thought they were sisters. I didn't know it was a mother-daughter act. But then again, Naomi was in high school when she had Wynonna, so they were very, very close in age. So maybe some tension because of that, their finances. Very powerful stuff. And Wynonna with her first new album in 10 years, The Hard Truth, set to be released on October 2nd. I thought it was interesting that Wynonna said when she was getting going, she wanted to be in a rock band. She said the Judds were pretty much all her mom's idea and said if she had a chance to do a duet with anybody, it would be Metallica, which I thought was awesome. She's also on the road with another icon, Melissa Etheridge, the Raised on Radio tour. On the road all this summer, you can check out tour dates on her website, Wynonna.com. And when she's not on the road, she's back at home on the farm, taking care of everybody, her whole family. She loves to cook in her spare time, and she's known by her family as Noni. She says she's like an Italian grandmother who loves to cook and clean and take care of her family. There's no doubt about it, Wynonna will never forget where she came from. What a great story. And don't forget, you can check out all of our past guests and episodes online at celebrityjobber.com, closing in on 200 episodes. Coming up on our 4-year anniversary. It's just incredible. I can't thank you enough for all the support. Thank you for listening. Streaming on Spotify, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to podcasts. So please hit that subscribe button. And would love a 5-star rating. If you like the podcast, please leave a review or a comment and follow on Instagram, celebrity_jobber_podcast, or youtube.com/the@celebrityjobber. Ton of videos up there and bonus content on substack.com/celebrityjobber. Well, I'm not sure that Wynonna Judd would be shoveling shit and mucking stalls at a horse ranch. She does love it, but I'm sure she doesn't love it that much. I think it was all meant to be a true from rags to riches story. And I hear through the grapevine, Wynonna is so good to her fans. From time to time, she'll call them. She'll set up meetings and gatherings with her fans. And that's the reason that she's still a force in the business today. Well, thank you again for checking out another episode of the Celebrity Jobber Podcast. Until next week, I'll see you then. I'm Jeff Zito.